With the 13th pick.
13th pick.
13th pick.
13th pick.
Devin Booker.
Tyler Herro.
Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
The NBA draft is supposed to reward the worst teams with the best players, but somehow one of the most overlooked picks, number 13, keeps producing killers. Kobe Bryant, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, all drafted 13th. And it's not just them. If you look closely, you'll see a pattern that no one talks about. This isn't a lucky number, it's a blind spot. Because while teams gamble on upside and measurements, the stars keep falling through the cracks, and when they land at 13, they remember every name called before them. The Hornets were on the clock with the 13th pick in the NBA draft. Their GM didn't even know who Kobe Bryant was, but the Lakers did. Jerry West had already watched Kobe torch grown men in workouts. He said it was the best pre-draft performance he'd ever seen, and he made a move, trading Vlade Divac for Charlotte's pick, knowing Kobe would fall right into their lap. 12 teams passed on him. Some took big men, some went international. Others didn't want to risk a high school kid, but they all missed, and Kobe never let them forget it. He became the second youngest player in NBA history, won 5 rings, made 18 All-Star appearances, and spent his whole career proving that the league judged him wrong. He wasn't just the best player taken in 1996, he might have been the most impactful pick of the decade, and he set a tone for every number 13 pick after him. That number 13 became more than just where he was selected, it became part of the myth. Because after Kobe, people started watching that slot differently. They knew it was possible, that a legend could slip past 12 teams and still burn the whole league down. Kobe might have made the number 13 pick famous, but he wasn't a one-off. Just a few years later, Corey Maggette went 13th to the Seattle Supersonics in 1999. He'd get traded before ever playing a game, but carved out a 14-year NBA career. 18 points per game in his prime, one of the best slashers of the early 2000s. Then came Richard Jefferson in 2001. Taken 13th by Houston, flipped to New Jersey. Within 2 years, he was starting in the NBA Finals next to Jason Kidd. And that's the thing about this pick. Even when the names don't become household legends, they still matter. Thaddeus Young went 13th in 2007. Markieff Morris, 13th in 2011. An NBA champion and key rotation guy for multiple playoff teams. These aren't just random contributors. They're guys who shape playoff series. Who start, who finish, who get paid. What's strange is that number 13 isn't a spot teams typically target for value. It's often where reaches or fallbacks happen. Yet it keeps producing talent that sticks. There's no obvious reason, no magical formula, but the pattern is real and it's getting harder to ignore. Because if Kobe was lightning in a bottle, then everyone that came after proved it wasn't luck. It might just be the most underrated spot in the draft. In 2015, Devin Booker wasn't supposed to fall to 13. He had just lit it up at Kentucky, one of the most polished scorers in the nation. Elite shooting mechanics, NBA-ready frame, high IQ, but teams weren't convinced. They said he was too slow, not athletic enough, just a spot-up shooter. So 12 teams passed on him, and Phoenix, sitting at 13, didn't hesitate. By year 2, Booker dropped 70 points in a game. By year 5, he was carrying the Suns through the playoffs. And today he's one of the league's most respected scorers, a franchise player with a max deal and a finals appearance. Booker didn't just become a star, he became a lesson. Because his fall wasn't about talent, it was about overthinking. Teams chased potential. They prioritized length, verticals, and theoretical upside. And they let a walking bucket slide all the way to 13. It's the same pattern. Guys who slip through the cracks not because they lack skill, but because the system gets too smart for its own good. Booker doesn't talk much about that night, but it shaped him. And it reminded the league that sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. He could shoot, he could score, he was ready. And he made 12 teams pay for forgetting that. In 2017, Donovan Mitchell wasn't even a lottery lock. He was explosive, sure. Tough, defensive-minded, confident, but his numbers at Louisville didn't scream franchise player. Scouts questioned his jumper, his size for a shooting guard, even his decision-making. The Denver Nuggets took him at 13, and then traded him immediately to Utah for Trey Lyles and the 24th pick. It became one of the most lopsided deals in modern draft history. Mitchell didn't wait around. He dropped 20 points in his debut. By mid-season, he wasn't just playing, he was leading. He had Utah back in the playoffs, and he wasn't afraid of the moment. He cooked Oklahoma City in the first round, dropped 38 in Game 6, eliminated a team with Russ, PG-13, and Melo as a rookie. Donovan Mitchell made it clear. This wasn't luck, this wasn't a flash, it was real, and he wasn't going to be patient about it. Mitchell became a 4-time All-Star in Utah. He carried them through multiple playoff runs. And when it was time for a new chapter, he instantly turned Cleveland into a 50-win team and made them a legit threat in the East. The craziest part, he wasn't even Utah's original target. They wanted another player in that range but pivoted last minute. Sometimes fate picks for you, and once again, it picks someone at 13. Mitchell doesn't carry himself like someone who was doubted, but deep down he knows what that number means. It's a badge, it's a chip. And like Kobe and Booker before him, he's still proving why 13 isn't a curse. When Tyler Herro was drafted 13th overall by the Miami Heat in 2019, it wasn't some massive headline move. Most mock drafts had him going in the late teens. He was known for his shooting touch and swagger, but there were real doubts about his defense, strength, and ability to handle the physicality of NBA guards. Critics called him a one-dimensional scorer, a flashy name with an Instagram following, not a franchise cornerstone. But Miami saw something different. They saw a worker, a competitor, a guy with a chip on his shoulder and ice in his veins. And it didn't take long for him to prove them right. In his rookie season, Herro stepped into the NBA bubble and immediately started torching veteran defenders like he belonged. In Game 4 of the 2020 Eastern Conference Finals, he dropped 37 points on the Celtics, the second most ever by a rookie in a conference finals game. That same Heat team made the NBA Finals, and Herro, barely old enough to buy a drink, was throwing no-look passes and burying clutch threes on the biggest stage. Still, the road since then has been bumpy. Injuries slowed him down. Trade rumors never stopped. Some fans turned on him, saying he wasn't worth the hype. But every time he has been doubted, he responds. In 2022, he won NBA 6th Man of the Year, averaging over 20 points per game while coming off the bench. A rare combination of selflessness and firepower. He's not perfect, he's still growing, but the 13th pick gave Miami more than just a scorer. It gave them a gamer, a competitor who fits Heat culture as much as anyone Pat Riley's ever brought in. Every year, teams spend millions trying to get the draft right. Analytics departments, private workouts, psychological evaluations, and still, the 13th pick keeps hitting while top 10 selections bust out. Why? Because the NBA draft isn't just about scouting. It's about fear, reputation, and pressure. When you're a lottery team, your job is on the line. You don't want to make the safe pick, you want to swing for the upside. That's how raw projects with flashy measurables sneak into the top 10, and proven players fall. Look back at some of the players taken right before Kobe, Booker, Mitchell, or you'll see a trail of guys who never found a real role. They weren't bad players, but they were drafted into bad expectations. Meanwhile, pick 13 doesn't come with pressure. You don't need to sell the fan base, and that freedom changes everything. It lets teams take guys who might not have perfect measurables, but know how to play. It rewards polish over potential. It values competitiveness over wingspan. And it explains why so many players at 13 play with a chip. They weren't supposed to fall that far. They remember every name called ahead of them. And when they finally get their shot, they're already in attack mode. Pick 13 has become the landing spot for underappreciated killers. And every draft class adds another name to the story. Because in a league obsessed with the future, sometimes the best players are the ones ready right now. And the teams bold enough to see it, they're the ones who keep winning. Most fans look at the draft as a top-heavy event. The higher the pick, the better the player. That's the logic. But the 13th pick keeps breaking that pattern. It raises a serious question. Is the draft actually built to find the best players, or just the flashiest ones? When you look at the stars picked at 13, Kobe, Booker, Mitchell, they all had one thing in common. They were ready. GMs love upside, and that's the flaw. The 13th pick exposes a blind spot in the entire system. It proves that value doesn't always come from raw measurements. The league is starting to catch on, but slowly. In recent years, more teams have tried to reframe how they scout. Some front offices are now prioritizing interviews, in-game tape, and locker room intel over combine stats. But even now, the pattern continues. Pick 13 keeps delivering, and it forces us to ask, if this is what's happening at 13, what's being missed at 14 or 20? How many stars are slipping through just because they don't fit the mold? Maybe the draft isn't broken. Maybe it's just human, full of bias, full of fear. And that's what makes pick 13 so special. It's where the noise fades and the truth sneaks in. In 2022, the Detroit Pistons had a chance to keep the tradition alive. They took Jalen Duren, a powerful, athletic big out of Memphis. Raw but full of promise. And so far, he's flashed real potential as a modern rim-running, shot-blocking center. And if history holds up, it wouldn't be a surprise if he eventually makes people regret passing. Because here's what's different about pick 13 now. It's no longer a quiet spot. Pick 13 doesn't sound like much. It's not a top 5 headline. It's not a franchise saver. It's supposed to be where the dust settles, where teams take chances, not make history. But that's not how it's played out. Kobe Bryant, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, one Hall of Famer, maybe 2 or 3. And that's not even including players like Tyler Herro, Richard Jefferson, or Jalen Duren. Guys who've already made deep playoff runs or shown clear star potential. If this were any other spot, if all this talent came from the lottery's top 5, we'd call it a goldmine. But because it's 13, it gets overlooked, and it's arguably the most consistently undervalued slot in the entire NBA draft. It's not just about being drafted, it's about what you do after, and how badly you want to make people pay. And time after time, pick 13 has been the proving ground for that mindset. You might want to call it what it really is, the best draft value in basketball. 98% of people who watch these videos still aren't subscribed. If you're enjoying this kind of deep NBA storytelling, take 2 seconds and hit that sub button. It really helps more than you know.